You didn't take all the standards that I wanted for a long-term relationship. Definitely a plaything type of thing. So a quick summary of our relationship, right? See if I get this right. We've been together for 4 years.
Okay.
Go. After meeting, it took about 2 weeks before we moved in together.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, cool.
That's true.
6 months into our relationship, you gave me a speech about how you wanted to isolate me on an island forever. Did I get that right? Okay, cool. A year into our relationship, we had lost a lot of our friends. Like, a lot of them. And 2 years into the relationship, we were barely talking to our families.
Sounds healthy.
Sounds very healthy.
Yeah. At some point, I was in what I would call a really toxic relationship. And this person really gaslit me a lot and made me feel so unlovable and disposable. She makes me feel that way too, but that's different.
Oh my god. Anyways, back to what this video is actually about. Okay. In the beginning days, people were always psychoanalyzing our relationship. You know, everybody was acting like they had a psychology degree because they would take one look at us and be like,
You guys are always together. You're always matching. Why are you wearing the same sock?
you know, but people really looked at it as such a negative thing. Like, when people would say it, it was like out of concern. It's like they were waiting for one of us to like send a signal and be like, you know, help me. She's keeping me captive, you know. And moving in together as quickly as we did not help the situation.
It at all. Made it worse.
Whatsoever. Starting businesses together,
bad.
It's been going downhill. Like, you know, I don't know, like when you look at Western media, there's this thing called, you know, U-Haul lesbians. And we were like U-Haul lesbians with like a Ferrari engine type thing. Because we moved
quickly.
We moved quickly.
If we would have moved in on the first night.
Facts. I mean, kind of. That is what happened. But anyways, all of those people that criticize us aren't together anymore, so...
When people started pointing these things out and I went back to my Insta psychologist, I started like referencing things and I was like, oh, hectic, we could really be in a really toxic relationship. So we're panicking now, like, oh my gosh, are we in a very toxic relationship? Are we abusing each other? What's going on? You know, like, we really had a panic about this. We cried a lot because we were so worried that we were not good for each other and we were hurting each other and it was going to be some long-term, I don't know. So now we're just going to unpack the things that happened during that time that were thought of as toxic and what we really thought was actually going on.
Yeah.
And how we sort of actually maneuvered out of that toxicity and became us.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna look into it because people threw that word at us a lot, and on social media we throw that word around a lot. Toxic people, toxic behavior, toxic relationship, toxic, you know. And I feel like we're beginning to confuse toxic behavior and toxic relationships with incompatibility. You know, it's getting really hard to identify those things. I think that's why we had a hard time accepting that what our relationship was good for us. Because I was with my one ex, right? We had a relationship that people would kind of, you know, the normal relationship. You take your time, you know. We didn't say I love you the first day we met. You know, it was very, we respected each other's spaces. You know, she had her hobbies, I had my life, you know. We had lived very separate lives. But that's not how I love. You know, and so when I would want to love this person, they saw it as suffocation and they would retaliate, right? And then would end up fighting. But then in terms of fighting, our communication styles were different as well. You know, so now we're not even communicating whilst we're fighting. It's not a progressive fight, and then we end up hurting each other, saying things to really hurt each other, and then we would break up, and it's this whole heartbreak, and then we see each other again, and it's like, oh my gosh, I love you, and then we'll get back together again, and it was just this on and off cycle of just break up and make up and break up and make up, you know, and it was fun. No cap, was all fun. Even the fighting, I loved it. Look forward to it. Like, those are the highlights of our relationship. But the fights, oh my gosh, it was nice. It was, we were compatible at fighting. But I don't think that's, a healthy relationship. We had really toxic behaviors to each other. Like in themselves, they weren't toxic behaviors, right? But trying to have a relationship together, it became such a toxic space.
Yeah. So the first toxic trait we're gonna dive into is codependency.
Something I really struggled with in the beginning, because codependency is basically when one partner prioritizes the needs of the other partner, in an attempt to seek validation and approval and love and stuff, and it turns out, looking deeper into it, that I'm just a service sub. It's who I am. It's my love language. I love doing things for this person. It brings me joy. I like it. And I'm a Libra, so it just piled on, basically. And what we actually do tick more boxes off, is that a sentence?
I think so. Yeah.
Is interdependency.
We like having interconnectedness.
Yeah.
I guess it felt weird, when we got into the relationship, because we came from like very heteronormative relationships where, you have strictly defined roles that people do. You have a man and you have a woman, and
they have their separate
lives, and they have friends, and like, oh my gosh, guys, we started reading Steve Harvey's book. And basically, he was in the book, he said something about like, you shouldn't expect a man to be someone you can talk to about just talking, unless it's a problem and you want him to fix it. Talking is for your girlfriends, and we kind of had those same mentalities when we had our different relationships. Our partner wasn't necessarily a person we could like depend on beyond like fixing things or relationshipy things. Like we weren't really like friends, right? So when we came from those backgrounds and we came into this relationship, it was really cool because we started out as kind of like friends. I know, 2 weeks short, but in those 2 weeks we were the best of friends.
Really.
And we were also very interconnected. Like, there's the heteronormative stand of just like, don't go through your partner's phones, and obviously don't go through your partner's phones without their permission. But we gave permission. Our phones were linked, bank details, gonke logo, like every single thing.
I lose my phone.
She loses her phone a lot, so we had to just put everything on my phone. But we would share the phones. Like you wouldn't know who you were talking to on the phone sometimes. Which is
easier.
Really annoying.
Like you just pick up any device and your information is there. I don't have to be like, oh, where's my phone? I just be like, phone. I'm gonna find exactly what I need in here. I guess she can testify to this when she would say, I love you for months. Well, it wasn't really months.
First of all,
it was probably like 3 days, eh?
Yeah. I was drunk. That's it.
Yeah, when she's drunk, she just, oh my gosh. We'll give you another story time. But she would always be like, I love you when she was drunk. But when she was sober, she never said nothing. So I didn't believe you.
I mean, I wasn't completely drunk. I was a little tipsy. Love bombing is a red flag to look out for when you're meeting people, because it would be weird if someone you just met is now suddenly like telling you that they love you and they're so into you
when they don't even know you.
When they don't know you. Yeah, I meant that I like you. Like, oh my gosh, I love you, right? Like, I really love you. Like, I really enjoy you. I like your energy. I love you. And I didn't mean it in the sense like, oh, I love you so much with all my heart, my being. It was just kind of like, because for me, love is a progressive thing. I just meant that, I feel these feelings towards you right now. I wasn't gonna lie and be like, I kind of like you, but I didn't mean it like in a prophecy way. Like, no, because people have like certain stages in the relationship where you can be like, okay, I love you. For me, it was just kind of letting you know that I'm really into you, and I'm gonna be more into you as we go.
That must have scared off a lot of people.
It must have. It really did, because they thought I was crazy, and I understand that. They might have thought that I was creepy for saying it, but I didn't mean it in a deep way. It was just that right now I feel these budding emotions for you. I'm not saying I'm
gonna identify them as love, and I want them to grow.
And I want them to grow. It wasn't like, I'm so in love with you. It's just like, I love you. I really enjoy you.
Are you so in love with me now, though?
Yeah.
I don't know if your churches did this, but basically our pastor was like, you should have a checklist for what you want in a partner, and you mustn't settle for less because you deserve A, B, C, whatever you decide. But God-fearing had to be, number one, obviously. church trauma, not getting into it. And basically, I think having standards, like I had really strict standards when I was looking for like my partner now, you know. But when I met you, you weren't really in the category of myself. Like it took
It's
a
not her
lot of,
type.
I mean, parts of you are definitely my type. But yeah, basically I felt like you didn't take all the standards that I wanted for a long term relationship. Definitely a plaything type of thing, but not like a long term relationship, and I was really trying to have like a long term relationship. So I kind of pushed you away in a sense, you know, instead of actually just being open and learning about you.
And you also kept those standards in the relationship as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
Like you had these set of standards that you expected me to meet.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you know, the relationship wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
And I guess for a moment there, I guess this is where my codependency comes in.
Yeah.
Because I felt like it was my responsibility
Yeah.
to be all the things you want me to be. And I also felt like I had to attend to all your emotions. It didn't really start in our relationship. It was a reoccurring thing that I kept doing where I kept, you know, trying to people please. I guess people please by, you know, putting other people's emotions first. Like if someone was sad, I felt like I was the reason why they were sad, and I had to come in and fix it. I had to fix everybody's emotions.
Yeah.
And that was the thing, you know, when I felt this disapproval, when I wasn't meeting your standards, I felt like it was my fault and I had to make it right. So it was really hard in the beginning, but at some point I just was like, no, I can't do this. I'm not this person. I am my own person. I like this and that, and I can't be the thing you want me to be. And we had to learn to, you know, like each other for each other.
And we had to like readjust from standards to flows, you know, to be like, okay, what can we do for each other to make sure that we progress as individuals and as people? What is the flow that we need to be on, you know, as opposed to like meeting these strict standards? It's like, oh, okay, what kind of what wave are we riding?
We're not saying you shouldn't have standards, but there are some things that can be unrealistic.
Yeah.
You know, there's some unrealistic standards. And the reality is, you know, sometimes you meet people who can tick everything off of your list and meet someone who doesn't. And you might just not be in love with the person that ticks the things on your list. Because just because I fit everything in your standard doesn't necessarily mean I'll be able to love you.
I mean, and it's also a thing of like, you never know what you need until you got it.
Some things you know.
There's a standard of things that you know, right? But there's boxes that you tick that I never really realized I needed. So just being open to being introduced to new ways to
experience love
and experience people, and not just be like, oh, I'm not experiencing you the way I want to, so I'm gonna shut you out. You know, this is to say if you're happy and you're feeling like, oh, this is a place I can grow. If it feels like, okay, this is energy that it's not serving me well, then divs, bounce.
Yeah.
Like a basketball. It gets hard because you kind of struggle criticizing your partner, you know, constructively. Obviously, you know, you feel like, oh, if I say this to her, it'll make her extremely upset. You know, but then if I don't say this to her, she won't grow and learn as a person. You know, I feel like I can help. You know, it was so hard. I think it still kind of is really hard because I'm a very moody person. My moods are, they're scary.
She's bipolar.
I'm bipolar. So 0 to 100 to 1,000 to negative 1,000 real quick.
You're very scary in the beginning. I was really afraid. Like, I remember we had this one fight in Checkers over cake, and that really hurt my emotions because it really did, because it ties in with the whole standards and emotional responsibility. Because, you know, she was like, you have to go to the gym, right? And I was like, I hate the gym. I still do, because it's hard to work out when you're like, you know, top heavy.
True.
It's hard to move around, bouncing around, you know, weights, although I could do it. But, you know, jogging and being active is very difficult to do that. And, you know, she didn't take that seriously because she's just like, oh, you're just lazy. And I'm like, no, I really can't move around a lot. I can do ballet, I can do stretching, I can do yoga, but, you know, the really rough stuff, not so much. And that wasn't really compatible with her life. And so now when I started, like, buying, like, unhealthy foods, it would piss her off because, you know, you're not working out and now you're going ahead and eating food. And she was very fat phobic, I will say. We've grown a lot. We've grown a lot because it was a very difficult time for her. And when she was in that gym mindset, you know, it was very difficult to understand that people can have different bodies and they function very differently from yours. That was a learning step that we both had to come to terms with, you know. Being around people can be very draining.
Yeah.
Like, even
I guess
now,
that's what being an introvert is.
oh, I guess we're introverts. Basically, that's what we're saying. We're introverts.
Yeah,
we didn't have people around us
before we met.
And then when we got together, we kind of realized, because she was like she was the first person I could like tolerate in my space for this long. Like,
True. I mean,
she didn't
tolerate.
No, like that's what I mean. Like, I didn't have to tolerate you.
Oh, okay.
That's what I mean, because I didn't feel like at the end of the day I never felt like emotionally exhausted. I didn't need to take breaks from you.
Yeah, I thought that was very interesting. Like, I liked seeing you. Because usually when people are trying to get into my space, it's like, okay, I have to designate, it's going to be Friday, you know? So on Friday, I need to save up my energy so that on Friday, I can interact with people. And then I need like a break for 2 weeks. I'm that kind of person. But with you daily, even now, it's been close to 4 years and I just feel so energized being around you. It's just, I love it. I love your presence constantly. I want it constantly.
It's so nice just to, like, we're not always gonna be like together because I guess as introverts we're able to like be away in our heads and in our own spaces. So sometimes we'll be like in the same room but we'll be doing completely different things.
We won't be talking.
We'll
be silent.
We'll be so silent. Like, people come in and be like, are you guys okay? Like, are you guys fighting? We're just like, no, we're doing stuff, just chilling. So being able to find someone that I was comfortable being in silence with was really nice.
So I guess we got really excited when we first met. We were so excited. We're like, we're just gonna lock ourselves away in the world, and we were so happy in our little bubble. But it didn't mean that we didn't have friends or didn't want to make friends or weren't able to keep friendships going. You know, we did. I wasn't like, cut off all of your friends. I don't want you to talk to anybody.
Once I realized that I actually don't need to be in pain around the people I'm around, I realized that I wanted better quality friendships. Which is a very hard thing to cultivate. Again, like, I had this friend group at some point that I was chilling with in varsity, and they were really cool people. I really liked them. They're really cool, but I just felt so invisible and so lonely when I was with them. And when I met her, I just realized that actually I don't need to be fighting this battle. It's unnecessary. I can be alone and be happy. I don't have to be with people just for the sake of being around people. And that was really freeing and really nice. Same goes with family. You know, when we realized that, all our relationships can be healthy, we started just trying to repair the familial ones.
And it takes time. It takes time. And when you're not ready to work with someone, or they're not ready to work with you towards, you know, a healthier relationship, space is usually a better option.
So it's important that, you know, we give people space to grow. Like, they can have toxic traits, but that doesn't necessarily always mean that they're bad people. Sometimes we're incompatible. Sometimes we're just still unlearning and learning, and that's okay. But I'm not saying it has to be on your time, you know. You can separate yourself from the situation if you feel like it's unhealthy for you. Also, relationships evolve. You know, you can have all the green flags in the beginning, but then over time, because, you know, life happens, relationships change. You know, they can change for the good or for the worse. For the good, for the worse. I don't know. For the worst, for the better. They can change good or bad.
That works.